And good morning. Welcome to the Falcons Podcast. We are live on YouTube, but we're going to bring in our Facebook groups. Atlanta Falcons fans on Falcons and Scott Kennedy Sports on Facebook. As we're letting those get connected, we're going to take a sip of coffee, let it breathe for just a moment. And welcome in, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Kennedy. You can find me on Twitter or now TikTok at Scout Kennedy. And we're going to talk Atlanta Falcons. We're going to talk Washington Commanders today. We're going to talk a lot of Falcons injuries and players and how we replace them, who's coming in, and how big of an impact that Kyle Pitts going on injured reserve is going to have, how big an impact Taquan Graham is going to have. If you watch this Monday, you've got a pretty good idea how I feel about that one. Nick Kendall will be joining us shortly. So I want to say good morning. Big Al's in here already early this morning. Good morning, Big Al. Hope you are doing well. As you're coming in and the algorithm starts reaching its way out, its tentacles out into the social media universe, come in and hit that like button, and that helps accelerate and bring in more Falcons fans just like you. Several moves this week. We went live on Monday before the news broke, but we kind of had a feeling what the news was going to be, that Kyle Pitts was going to be out for a while. Initial reports were that he had a strained MCL, and then it came out a little bit later that it was actually a torn MCL. I started the show on Monday saying I had very similar type of injury like this in high school. And you could tell, unless it probably wasn't going to be an ACL just because it wasn't a lateral tear, but the straight back is incredibly painful. And hopefully it was just going to be an MCL strain. But it says it was a tear. That's probably going to do him for the season. We still haven't gotten any real definitive word on Taquan Graham, but when he went out on a cart, I had a feeling he was going to be gone for the year. But you know who is here with us all year long is Nick Kendall out of Seattle. So hello, Nick. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. The Deutschland is up 1-0, so feeling pretty good. That's my international team that isn't the U.S., so excited to see them take on Japan. And yeah, doing well. I have to recalibrate my time in the morning a little bit because my wife has switched from cold brew to the hot coffee, and that means I have to make the full pot in the morning, so it takes twice as long to get my coffee going. So just like I had it like perfectly synced to where I could be here like almost right on time. And now, a little 3 minutes later. But doing well. Excited to be here. Excited for Turkey Day tomorrow.
I need to talk to her how to make that cold brew. I've wanted to do it. Don't you do it like the night before? You put it into, do you just make it like normal? You put it in the French press, then throw it in the fridge?
She has a special kind of coffee that she gets for it. Like you don't want the really fine grind one. You want it a little bit chunkier, I guess.
Yeah, which is how you do it with the French press anyway. Yeah, yes. It's super coarse.
Yep, so more coarse, and then she has like a apparatus that she puts it in and lets it soak there for 24 hours and then pours it into a jug, and away she goes. She also has a little frother arm for whatever type of cream if she wants that. So yeah, she's in the summertime, she's a very seasonal gal. She'll tell you that.
Gotcha. Frother. That's like fluffer. I try and work fluffer in any conversation I can. It's just a good word. So on that note, and yes, happy Thanksgiving week, everybody. And the notifications seem to be going out. Joe has joined us. Good morning, Joe. Kevin Mapp is here as well. Good morning, Kevin. Dominic Jaramillo. Good morning, Scott, Nick, and Dog Nation. Well, good morning to all of you. Now, Kyle Pitts being lost for the year. On the surface, that sounds devastating. Dig a little deeper. How big of a loss is that to this team right now? The way they're playing, the way they've used him, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, it really hurts the team as far as the functionality of the offense. Kyle Pitts is doing a lot right now to open things up for the functionality of the offense. And without him, teams are going to play you a lot differently. You know how this Falcons team has been killing it this year in run game efficiency. I know that there's a lot of jokes out there, Arthur Smith using just, we lost our best offensive lineman, or, oh man, we lost our best decoy. But like the way Kyle Pitts has been used, he's been opening up a lot for this team for other people. So the jobs for Cordell Patterson is going to get a lot harder. The jobs for Bird or Olamide Zaccheaus are going to be significantly tougher. So somebody's got to step up. And I think obviously this team arrived a little bit early. We never expected them to win this many games this season. We thought they'd be picking top 5, but I do think it's a massive shot to this team's playoffs chances.
I think, again, like you're saying, he's doing a lot of things. He's maybe the NFL's best decoy, like you're saying. There's not a lot of options out there. And I guarantee you they had a conversation with the refs this week. Why isn't Kyle Pitts getting open? Well, he's getting held every single time. Well, they started calling it this week against the Bears. They started calling. So those are as good as 15-yard. I mean, I know it's 5, but an automatic first down, a defensive holding penalty can be huge. Those always drive me nuts. 3rd and 27, defensive holding, automatic first down. You're like, son of a, just don't. Let him catch the dang ball. A 5-yard holding penalty, first down. It was 3rd and 30, man. So yes, him drawing those penalties has been huge. A lot more of the burden falls on Drake London now, for sure, to be the guy. How much are they going to use him in the past? To be fair, Michael Pruitt, I think, is an adequate replacement for what they're getting out of Kyle Pitts right now. Now, he won't be respected as much, which may mean he could actually be more productive in the passing game. Yeah. He's not going to draw double teams. He's not going to draw your safeties, the best coverage guys, big coverage guys out there, the way that Kyle Pitts does. And Michael Pruitt was having a really good season with the Titans last year when he broke his ankle in January. And I guess it was a gruesome, a really bad ankle break. And he's coming up almost a full year. We've seen some good things from him this year. So I'm looking forward to him stepping up. He's physical. And I actually tweeted out there after watching Eddie Jackson, I called him an ankle biter, going low on Kyle Pitts like that. And, Daryl Johnston on the broadcast tried to apologize for him. Man, that's dirty. It's chicken shite dirty. Going after someone. You do that anywhere else on the field, it's a 15-yard flag. You can't do that, crack them back on the wide receivers. You can't do that to the defensive backs out there blocking them. You can't go low like that on a quarterback. It's I'm about to get run over by somebody bigger than me. I'm going to go after his knees instead. It's crap. Like I said, and the next play that comes in, Michael Pruitt goes to the sideline and just catapults Eddie Jackson. I mean, just runs into him. Eddie Jackson's 10 yards blown up. I'm like, well, now I see why he was an ankle biting, afraid to actually go and take somebody straight up, because he's gotten blown up by a tight end. That one made me mad, Nick. That one angered me. It's cheap, it's dirty, it's lazy, it's any adjective you want to use. That by Eddie Jackson was poor, and it cost Kyle Pitts the rest of his season.
Yep, it's unfortunate. Sometimes defensive backs do that to the bigger wide receivers or pass catchers because they can't go high and they know they can't make that open field tackle, so they go low. And it's unfortunate. I don't know if I think it's more unfortunate than pure dirty. I think he probably didn't have many other options, but
my first reaction was that's chicken stuffings is what that is, to go low on that instead of trying to go, put a shoulder into him. And I do get the, in the old days, it probably would have gone after his head. Let's just go high on him.
He'd have launched. Yeah.
And launch into him, which you can't do. But it got me to thinking. I was like, we played yard football. And I've said this before, and I've also followed this up by saying it will never happen. But we played, tackle football in the yard growing up forever. You know what we'd ever played with? We never played with a helmet. You know what we learned how to do? Tackle. We learned how to tackle without a helmet. I'm like, you want to get rid of the concussions? Take the helmets away. That's how you get rid of the concussions in this game. As counterintuitive as that sounds, that's how you get rid of the concussions. People aren't leading with their heads anymore. That'll never, ever, never, ever, ever happen. But again, that was frustrating to watch, because I guarantee you, playing, backyard football, and Johnny's big brother's catching a slant out there, you don't dive at his knees and you don't take him head on. You kind of sideswipe him and grab onto him and then hold on and wait for help. I mean, that's kind of how you have to do that. But
gang tackle.
That one was a little frustrating. His loss will be huge. I'm looking for, like I said, Michael Pruitt is your fill-in there, and I think he can do a job. I think he can. I don't think, because he hasn't been the uber tight end this year in the passing game, his loss will be felt in the production, like you said, in other places. But I think Michael Pruitt can do a job.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there in that regard. I think he'll be fine. I do remember him at Tennessee. Was he at the Senior Bowl? I feel like he went to
It's been
some.
a while.
Okay.
So if he was, I didn't follow him there. So he's been in the league a few years.
I remember him. I feel like he came out of Southern Illinois and then made some hay at the Senior Bowl and then been in the league for a bit. So yeah, he'll be fine. I'm curious to see if they get Parker Hesse more involved as well. I know he's kind of a gadget player, but you got to figure out some ways to move the football now that Kyle Pitts is out there. So his involvement and biggest thing here for me, I guess I just thought of another point, but you need Drake London to start to become a more focal point of the offense.
Mhm.
You know, 1 catch for 2 yards and a touchdown isn't going to get it done. I know offensive yardage is an overrated statistic. Just ask Kirk Ferentz, but you still have to be able to move the football through somebody. And I think Drake London. I mean, who else then?
Well, and to be fair, and good morning, James. Appreciate you being in. And Raymond Collins coming in saying good morning. Got his hat on. Got his Falcons hat on there. That touchdown catch. How did that play develop? That was kind of a rollout with two guys going a high-low. Who was the first option on that play?
I think it was Pitts.
It was Kyle Pitts. It was Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts was getting mugged at the line of scrimmage. And Mariota was able to extend, and Drake London came along backside, and he was able to get that touchdown catch. So again, that play opens up a little bit. Those are the places where we might not think about the loss of Kyle Pitts, but how it affects, the ripple effects of him not being there will affect everybody else, and the spacing on the field. So huge loss. Another huge loss for me, Taquan Graham. I said last week, for his throughout the course of the entire season, or on Monday, I said on Monday, I could make a real legit argument for Taquan Graham being the third best player on this team this year. Yeah. And if we say, okay, AJ Terrell, or we say Cordero Patterson, or whoever, that's fine. Well, he's still in the argument. That's the point. He's still there. His loss is a big one, Nick.
Yeah, he dropping a little bit like this time of year. The Falcons have more or less avoided the curse that the Broncos have found upon themselves this season, but losing Graham and Pitts, arguably 2 of your top 5 players on this team so far this season, it's going to be a hit. Obviously, the depth of this team is not great, given the lack of resources this team has had in terms of bringing in free agents. So you're probably going to feel it a little bit. The one thing also I'm curious if this does change is losing Pitts is a huge loss, no doubt, for the Falcons offense right now. I'm wondering if this changes the thoughts in the formula with Desmond Ridder, because you want to make the job easier for your rookie quarterback. You have a target out there like Kyle Pitts, where it's like you have 2 reads because it's max protect with Kyle Pitts and Drake London out there. It's going to be that much harder for your young quarterback. And obviously we're still probably still a little bit away from that. Maybe this accelerates it because
I think it doesn't change it because he wasn't going to play.
You don't think he's going to play at all?
I don't think he's going to play. So It doesn't change it because it's Marcus Mariota. So therefore, this doesn't have any effect on Desmond Ridder because it is Marcus Mariota. So, like you're saying, would you be less likely to put him out there when he doesn't have that safety blanket in a 6'6" tight end with an 8-foot wingspan? Yes, you want him out there. You want him out there for Mariota too. If anything, how it might accelerate it is if the Falcons then nosedive.
That's what I was.
And at 5-6, they lose 4 in a row, and they're sitting there at 5-10, and maybe Ridder gets the last two games. Yep. But I honestly don't see that happening. I've said it before. This team will go through runs. They give up 17 in a row, and I check my Twitter list, and the usual suspects are on there. Okay, this team, enough of the playoffs. Guys, this team will fight. They're gonna fight. They're gonna hang around 500 all year. Within 2 games of 500, whether that be 5-7 after this week, they're gonna be right around there for the rest of the way, and that's enough for me. That's gonna keep Mariota in the game.
I think if you're sitting there with 2 games under 500 with 2 games to go, and the way you're sitting in the draft with a decent depth quarterback class, there might be an argument there. I think there might be a pull.
I can't even do the math anymore. What is that? 7 and 9?
Yep.
No, because that's only one left.
So you'd be. Is it even impossible?
I was going to say, can you even do it? Because it's 6 and 8. It's 3 games left. 7 and 9 is.
So I guess if you're like 6 and 9,
there's an odd number of games.
Yeah, like 6 and 9. So if you lose 3 of your next 4, then I think there's
6 and 9. That's
there's a
3.
discussion to be had.
Then I think there's a chance. But that or an injury, I think, is the only way we see. And the way the schedule lines up, the Falcons, I think, are going to hang around 500 the rest of the way. The Falcons made some moves. We said on Monday, we didn't know who it was going to be, but with only you went too deep on your 3 defensive linemen, and one of those guys is gone now, Taquan. So you've only got 5. You're going to have to make a move. They brought Jaleel Johnson back. He was part of the practice squad. He had started. Let me look him back up because I wrote it up and then I forgot which team it was. Probably the Bears. Jaleel Johnson. But he had just a couple of years ago, I think, for the Vikings, he had 16 starts. So let's see. In 2020, he started 16 games for the Vikings. He played in 12 games in 2021, and he's bounced in and out of the practice squads a little bit. But he did play before being waived for the Texans. He did play against played against the New York Giants in Week 10, and then was waived after that or inactive, and then picked off. So you're bringing in somebody, again, who is familiar with the system, at least, good size. He's a 315-pounder, where maybe you can move some guys that have a little bit of flexibility there, or possibly even go straight 4-down linemen. But I think he's going to see the rotation right away. I think we're going to see him right away. I like him better than a couple of guys behind him, specifically Matt Dickerson.
Yeah, Jaleel Johnson. I have a little bit more of intimate knowledge of him because University of Iowa. Not much of a pass rusher, but solid frame and a solid run stopper. Can get a little bit high sometimes, but extremely strong. That had a good number of years. The Minnesota Vikings, believe he was a 3rd-round pick. You're not going to get much from him as far as a gap penetration. Just never been his game. I feel like he doesn't have that the slipperiness or the ability to kind of shimmy through a gap, but he can provide some run defense up there and be a solid 3 technique, 4 eye, or 1 in some such situations as well, as a 315-pound kind of guy. So yeah, that's a solid signing. Bringing him up from the practice squad. Obviously, you're going to lose some dynamism from Taquan Graham being injured because he was providing explosiveness, youth. I mean, he was a very quality starter on there. Now you're playing a fringe player, but at least Jaleel Johnson does have some skins on the wall and has proved to be a solid run defender, which this team has shown they need.
Yeah, I don't even see what happened. Remember, I said, that's what it is. They've elevated Jalen Dalton to starter number 79 on the depth chart on ourlads.com. So Jalen Dalton, who I didn't know who that was, despite watching every one of these games and writing about them and talking about them, et cetera, has been moved to starting nose guard. So we'll see how many snaps he actually gets. I wouldn't be surprised to see more 4-man fronts with Grady Jarrett inside, moving back to defensive tackle, and then your edge guys, Ebiketie, Lorenzo Carter, moving up and playing a more traditional defensive end in this defense. But Jaleel Johnson, I think, was a very good signing. They elevated Ryan Newsel. They've lost a couple of offensive linemen to injured reserve here recently. I think Hennessy was one of those guys. It's going to be important for this offensive front for the Falcons to be strong because the Washington defensive front is as good as the Carolina Panthers defensive front, and the Carolina Panthers defensive front gave the Falcons problems. Yeah.
This Washington team's talented. They're playing great football right now. Ron Rivera's got them humming, and I even saw that this one might be shocking for you. So they have like early betting lines out there for not this week's game, but the following week's game, and the Washington Commanders are favorites on the road at the New York Giants. What does that say about what the Vegas and the bettors say about the way this Washington team is playing right now? Maybe it says a little bit about the Giants as well, but regardless,
this is
a
type of team right now.
Yeah, but this is a Washington team. I mean, they took it to the Eagles. They're playing really sound football. I think the big key in this game is taking advantage of when Taylor Heineke, not if, when Taylor Heineke makes a mistake. He's aggressive. He's good for 2 or 3 triple coverage throws a game. Not only do you need to take those away, you need to advance the football on those and then score off turnovers. Points off turnovers is a massive one in this one. You can't just, take the ball away and then piddle yourself down the leg 3 and out, punt it back. If you have good field position, punch it in.
Yeah, it's a 4.5 point game right now. I'm going back to the Mariota talk. Saring comes in. Apologize if I pronounce your name right. Help me out with that, with the phonetics. Mariota's projected to throw 3,000 yards, 20 passing TDs, 600 rushing yards, 6 rushing TDs, 11 interceptions, 5 fumbles lost. What do you think about his projections? He'd actually have to step it up to hit 3,000 yards. He's averaging about $150 right now, I think, per game, which is incredibly low. Through 11 games, Mariota is at he's at 1878 with 13 touchdowns. So 6 games remaining, 20 touchdowns sounds about right. He might be a little below the 3,000, but close. The touchdown interception ratio at just under 2-1. I don't think that's good enough. Especially if you factor in, if you take a rushing touchdown and factor in a fumbled loss is basically a touchdown to an interception ratio. Your touchdown ratio is not quite 2-1, factoring in fumbles and rushing touchdowns. It's under 2-1. That's not good enough. I want that number to be closer to 3-1. It's been okay, but for the type of for this season, it's been good enough. For where you want to be moving forward, you want more from your quarterback position.
Yeah, he's a steward. The passing numbers are okay, but he's definitely left a lot of yards on the field. Just watching him play this season, some airmailed tosses out there where I guess he's protecting the football on some of those, except the Carolina game where he had that. Where's our guy with the funny picture of Mariota? Joe Cannon.
Joe?
Yep, right there. But I think the thing with the passing yards here with Mariota is this would be fine if he was a truly dynamic runner of the football to carry the offense and kind of run that through him, like a Lamar Jackson, like a Justin Fields, but he's not that kind of guy. So I think you're going to see less than 3,000 yards, especially with Kyle Pitts going down. I could see the turnovers kicking up a little bit as well. And he's just here right now. He's a steward of the offense, and he's running the offense and helping Arthur Smith establish a culture there. You talk about this team being fighting. Mariota has a lot to do with that and the culture that's been established in there. So not to take away from him, but as Jason Elsa, he's meh. He's meh, but you're paying for meh. So that's
you're paying a little bit more than meh. He's on 8 figures.
Isn't he like the 24th highest paid quarterback or something though?
He's on 8 figures though. He's like 12 to 14 million.
Yeah, I think that's still meh for a veteran quarterback.
I know, but considering some of the guys that's starting, you're on considerably less than that. But yeah, go ahead and look that up. But you could get meh for cheaper than 14 million a year, and you're not paying for it next year. That much I can almost guarantee that he doesn't come back on that same contract.
He's the 18th highest paid quarterback.
He's so mid tier. He's been considering that ESPN was calling him the 32nd best or worst, the very worst starting quarterback in the NFL. He's been considerably better than that. So depending on where your expectations were, he's right about where I was expecting him to be. I expected him to be about average.
He's also only the not to cut you off here, but as far as the projected starters, he's the second lowest paid non-rookie quarterback. So non-rookie contract quarterback, he's the second lowest paid of any of the starters.
Sort by QBR, ESPN stat. He was top 10 going into last week. My eyes tell me a little differently. I just think we can do a little bit better. And as Kevin says, he's been adequate, but we need an upgrade for next year. Yeah, moving forward, you mentioned the running. He runs like he still thinks he can run. Where he's going. You watched it play. I don't remember who was setting the block, but he had a one-on-one with a blocker in front of him. Gets out into space.
It was Hesse.
Inside leverage and decides to try, I'm going to beat him with speed to the outside. I'm going to cut outside him and beat him instead of cutting behind your blocker where there's more traffic. He says, okay, I'm going to go for the big play. And he doesn't have that type of speed anymore to get laterally to outrun somebody to the corner. But he's for the most part been good with the ball in his hands. It was Hesse out in front of him. I couldn't remember who was out in front of him. I was like, okay, well, here you go. You got a lead blocker. Wait, you just ran right into the tackler. Dude, inside, this way. Go to the right. But that's where the big eaters are, too, at times.
Yeah.
But he's been okay. You know, he's been fine. He's been fine this year. Do I see him as did he play his way into being a long-term solution for this team? No, he hasn't. And with a $2 million dead cap against $14 million on the salary cap next year, I don't expect him to be on that contract next year. Does he come back? Okay, we're going to cut you, eat the $2 million dead cap, bring you back at $7 million if you want it, maybe. You know, he might be able to do better somewhere else because someone else could sure use average. There will be other teams out there that could use average, would be a big improvement for them. The Falcons next year, with the resources they have, with the first-round draft pick, with the salary cap money, I think they're going to want to start, like I've written a zillion times, starting the rebuild in earnest. Starting the rebuild in earnest next year. And I don't think Mariota will be a part of the long term, which is why, Nick, Falcons fans are a little frustrated in not seeing Ritter. It's like we know this Mariota is not going to be the long-term answer. Why won't you play Ritter then and find out if he's if he's the long-term answer? Let's get him some experience.
It has to do with the locker room and the leadership right now. If Ritter was playing neck and neck with Mariota in the film room and on practice, I think you would have seen a switch by now or be close to that. But there doesn't seem to be any indication that's the reality of it. Definitely possible that Ritter comes in at the end of the season still if this Falcons team tails off. But it's just how the position plays out. And how many times, not to get anybody to talk down on Ritter, because I liked Ritter a good bit coming out. I think he probably got the best value on a quarterback in this class, maybe next to the Washington Commanders with Sam Howell, but still third round for Ritter when a lot of people thought he could be first. I liked him more than Kenny Pickett, who's not looked good this season. So talking about the future of the quarterback position, I could see Mariota being back next season. I could even see you giving him a extension. I'm using my air quotes here, where it's okay, we're going to lower your cap hit by a lot, give you a second year, raise the guarantee next year. But that third year, it's essentially you're kicking a little bit money forward just to keep him here, keep him pacified, and give yourself another option. As far as the future of the quarterback position, could be this draft class, could be the next one. Maybe you go out there and give a huge contract and draft picks to Lamar Jackson. I mean, God, I think that the Ravens are going to do what they can to keep Lamar, but man, Lamar would be amazing in this offense. So it's still possible it's Mariota again next year. I still think
Lamar Jackson could come to Atlanta and own this city.
Oh,
he could own it. He could own Atlanta. That would be a fun spot for him. That's a pipe dream. You know, hey, I'm a lifelong Atlanta sports fan. Only the Braves bring in free agents and make moves like that in this town.
I think though they will spend some. I mean, they're going to be aggressive. They courted Deshaun Watson, which we'll put that in a box. Say what you will about that, but that to me says
they lost. They didn't get him.
They did lost, but they tried, and I think that says something about their aggression and direction. They're not just going to sit there and twiddle their thumbs and line their pockets. Arthur Blank's going to go out there with the checkbook this season and go out there and get some guys. You need Terry Fontenot to be smart about who he hands those checks over to, but I don't think resources is going to be a limitation like it is for some teams.
So, Saring, going back to, I'm gonna hedge on what I said because Nick said it for me, and I'm just gonna reiterate what he said about Marcus Mariota. If Marcus Mariota is on this team next year, it means the reason why Desmond Ridder didn't play this year is because the Falcons already made up their mind on him. That he's not a starting quarterback in this league. Maybe we get a good backup for the whole time. In that case, if Marcus Mariota is on this team, they are probably going high pick with the quarterback next year, and you let Marcus Mariota mentor while you let your first round pick get some time in. If Desmond Ridder had been a first round pick, you think the cries for him playing right now are loud now? If he had been a first round pick, that player will get some time. They will get some time to play. And you might not necessarily want to play. Basically what I wanted him to do with Matt Ryan last year and Justin Fields. But that means that Ritter ain't it. Mariota's like, okay, we're starting our rebuild. We've got our quarterback of the future, but he's not ready. All the things you think about Ritter now, okay, can Ritter be that guy? We don't know. If Mariota's back, Ritter ain't it. That's the one thing I know for sure. And it also means they'll go after him unless, as the pipe dream here, they go and send 3 first-round draft picks and then some to Baltimore for Lamar Jackson. Jamal coming in says, good morning, Scott and Nick and the chat. This will be a good game. It is time for the Falcons to go on a winning streak, and they lost to Washington last year. This is a bounce-back game. Yes, they did, Jamal. One of the players that had a huge game last year scares me again this year is Terry McLaurin. Is really, really good.
Scary Terry?
He's really good. And he tore the Falcons up last year, if I'm not mistaken. I seem to remember him catching one late. We're like, how is this guy wide open again? And they do a lot of things. We can get a little bit into our preview. There's a lot of motion, Nick. There's a lot of side-to-side pre-snap, and they will give the ball to a wide receiver on a jet sweep. There's a lot of, as you say, don't take the cheese moments. Play your discipline, play your gaps. The edge guys will be incredibly important on this in run containment, Nick.
Yep. It will, and that's one of those ones where you're a little bit worried about guys like Arnold Ebiketie or Lorenzo Carter being a little bit more finesse coverage edge kind of guys rather than the stand-up edge setting kind of edge rushers. So it'll be an interesting one, no doubt. The thing that makes this Washington team tick is the defense. They got some dudes up front on that defensive line. That's even without Chase Young out there. So it's a fun defense. They keep investing in that interior defensive line. They're going to get after it, and I think they're going to put this game in the hands of Marcus Mariota to beat them through the pass game, because I think they're going to do a good job of taking away the run. That might make things a little bit scary and clunky for this Falcons offense.
Yeah, if they can get to the quarterback with 4. I've said a bunch of times, watching that 1998 Atlanta Falcons team, their front 4, they were beasts. And that's what they were 14-2. Everybody wanted to talk about the Minnesota Vikings. People forget the Falcons were 14-2 going into that game. It's not like they eked into it at 9-7. That team was good. They just, they falconed it up in the Super Bowl, and we didn't get a competitive game that would have been a lot of fun to watch. If both teams played their best, it would have been a fun Super Bowl. But what I learned in that game, watching that team, was you can be a really good defense if you can get pressure on the quarterback with your front 4. Washington can. They can get a lot of pressure on there with their front 4, and they don't have to blitz. So they can hem in Mariota, and they can handle the run option with their front 4 and let everybody else play assignment football. That makes them a really dangerous team. Watching poor Kenyon Green, the rookie, against Daron Payne was unfair against the Texans. That was at left guard. Chuma Edoga had a good game. He had a really good game. I don't think Eli Wilkinson's back, but Chuma played really well in the last game. He's going to have his hands full. The left guard's going to have their hands full with Daron Payne.
No doubt about that. And just getting further, you're talking about the pass rush getting home with 4. That's true. But I think a lot of that is because of how good they are stopping the run. They do not let leak yardage happen in the run game. And they're probably one of the teams with the most 3rd and long situations in the NFL because of how good they are in the run game. And the advanced analytics also points to this being a truly great run defense. I wouldn't say elite, but truly great. EPA per play on the run defense, number 3 in the NFL. With a negative 1.56, only trailing the Rams and the Titans, who we know how good the Titans are stopping the run. The rush success rate is 4th in the NFL, and then DVOA, which is weighted for opponents, actually has them as the 2nd best run defense in the NFL, only trailing the Tennessee Titans. Their pass defense, middle of the pack, 16, but because of how good they are on 1st and 2nd down and stopping the run, they are able to get themselves in ideal situations and then let their guys rush after the passer.
Say what you want about the Houston Texans and that team. Dameon Pierce has been good. Running back out of Florida has been good. Projected for about 1,250. He was 10 carries for 8 yards. It took him his 4th carry to get past the line of scrimmage. So, yes, they are good at stopping the run game. That said, this Falcons run game is a different animal than the Houston Texans. As good as Dameon Pierce has been, the Falcons rushing game is still better than the Houston Texans running game. Their offensive line is better than the Houston Texans. But as we've said, now I can cheat a little bit. If I'm
Tough
watching
place.
the Commanders, I can cheat a little bit because I don't have to worry about that pterodactyl out there getting in behind my defense in Kyle Pitts. It's going to be that much more important for Michael Pruitt to take advantage of his opportunities. He's going to get some drags, some crossing routes, some rollouts, and make them pay for it if they're cheating. Get lined up against a safety and launch that guy, and watch out for your knees. I don't think you're playing Eddie Jackson this week. But Michael Pruitt in the tight end, Drake London. Sometimes those smaller, fast guys can come in handy, over the middle. And if they're going to cheat, and I can get one of my slot guys out in space with Zacchaeus or Bird, Damiere Byrd or Hodge, but it's going to be a fight. They've won 5 of their last 6, including hanging the only loss on the Eagles, and they dominated. I mean, I know it's the Texans. The Texans are 1-8. They're playing for next year, but they dominated the Texans in Houston. This is a good team right now.
Yeah, it is a very good team, and they are going to play. I'm guessing you're going to see a lot of cover 1 in this game, because right now, who do the Falcons have that you think can beat man coverage in the pass game? Who are they going to punish? Like Drake London can sometimes, but I think if you shade that free safety over to Drake London's direction, load the box. It's a team that plays a lot of, according to Pro Football Focus, have played 135 reps of cover 1, which is over the median, and almost twice the average cover 4 reps. So you might even see some cover 3 as well. Looks like they play cover 3 less than the average team. It's cover 3 is the most used coverage in football, but I would expect to see a lot of cover 1 given their tendencies, just so they can load the box, walk a safety down, and say, listen, Mariota, beat us. Pass weapons, beat us. We don't think you got it in you.
Oh, and you mentioned Taylor Heinicke making a mistake. He's taken a little bit of that out of his game. I wanted to highlight Jason's comment. He says, I pulled for Georgia native Taylor Heinicke. I don't remember him being where did he go to school? High school? Collins Hill. Hell, he's right here. That was in a gap of my coverage time. I didn't remember him going to Collins Hill. That's Gwinnett County. That's 45 minutes heading towards South Carolina from me. Could be 25 minutes depending on traffic. It's not easy going east and west in Georgia. North and south is okay. East and west is not easy. He has that gunslinger gene. Will be a tough game, as you've alluded to. I looked at the box score before I watched the game, and I was like, okay, Taylor Heinicke, 15 of 27, 191 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Yeah. Then I watched the first half of that game, and Taylor Heinicke was shredding the Houston Texans, just shredding them. And then they used the running game to punch the thing in. So the no interceptions part was good. Antonio Gibson I don't know where he's rated for me to say he's underrated, but he's not a guy that I hear when I think of top running backs. He is a terrific all-around running back. I watched him stay back and pick up a blitz when the Houston Texans rushed 6. Washington picked it up. And Gibson was a big part of that. He's great in the passing game. And he's very good with the ball in his hands. So this is a solid team. And if Heinicke's playing within himself, because he still can have that gunslinger gene. When he's playing within himself, they're a really tough beat.
Yeah, he still puts the ball up in harm's way a lot. He trusts Terry McLaurin to go out there and make plays. He's killed man coverage this season. So I think if you stop Terry McLaurin and don't let him beat you, which is easier said than done, then you have a chance. But I think the big one for me is, again, this Washington defense, I think, is going to boa constrict this Falcons team, which without Kyle Pitts out there, they can focus even more on the run. And it's going to be tough sledding. You might need Marcus Mariota to play his best game of the season to come out with a win in this one.
Was it Jahan Dotson, first round, 16th overall? Was that this year?
Yes. God, he's made some spectacular catches.
He was starting to get involved too.
Yep. He's really talented.
As a rookie, he's starting to get more involved as well. So again, this is a solid team. We're at 40 minutes. The chat's a little bit slow. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. So, I don't feel like I'm missing out on anybody here. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask you, what would be your prediction for this game on Sunday in Washington?
In Washington, I'm going to take the Commanders to win this one 24-14. I think they're going to win this one going away. They might be one of the hottest teams in football, unfortunately, right now. Maybe them besides San Francisco, who I see Kevin says nemesis San Francisco in the playoffs. San Francisco is playing great football as well right now. Unfortunately, soon as the Broncos get their pick. But
and during this run of the Falcons, I always kind of thought of the nemesis as being the Seahawks. So I remember when the Falcons made the Super Bowl that year, the team that they were having trouble beating in 2016, the team they beat in the first round was the Seahawks. And my friend who covers the Packers came down and stayed with me for the NFC Championship game. I said, dude, this is going to be a blowout. I'm like, once the way the Falcons were playing at the time, the defense went from a 25th ranked unit to a top 5 unit the last month of the season. The way that defense was playing, I said, once they got that Seattle Seahawks monkey off their back, they're going to blow out the Packers. And they did. They killed them in the NFC Championship game. And then for 3 quarters, they were killing the Patriots. But that's neither here nor there. But lots of nemesis for the Falcons when you're like the 30th winning percentage team in the NFL all time.
Yeah. And one more statistic here. I'm just kind of going through the database here. This Falcons team, or this Commanders team really, really loves to target the slot wide receiver. So this might be an Isaiah Oliver game as well. Looking at the amount of passing attempts Heineke has this season, they have 30 to the slot receiver compared to 43 to the boundary receiver. And their EPA per target for the slot receiver is almost 0.5, which is crazy. That's almost twice as high as the league average for targeting the slot wide receiver. So they're going to try to target Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson in the slot and target that cornerback.
This is going to be a game for the guys on the edge, on the line of scrimmage, and out. It's going to be your nickel cornerbacks and your edge guys getting containment because Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, they'll all run those jet sweeps.
Logan Thomas, even.
Yeah, and they'll fake them and they'll go underneath to them. So the sideways stuff is, and then we talk about boxing. You're not going to hit me, the body blow. You're not going to hit me in the ribs anymore, and you forget your chin's wide open. That's where Terry McLaurin then can beat you deep. So this is going to be assignment football. They're not going to line up and just run it right down your throats. They're going to try and trick you on some stuff, and they got some fast guys to do it. You said 24-14. I will never pick a non-field goal game that Younghoe Koo is in. So I will say that I would say 17. I kind of like Jordan's score here. 27-17. Redskins, Commanders, Washington, Commies, all of those guys. I kind of like the Washington football team, honestly, with my soccer background.
Speaking of which, Germany just gave up a goal.
I haven't watched hardly any of the World Cup so far this year. It's on early and I'm doing this stuff in the mornings.
Yeah.
I kind of like that score. The over under on this one it seems a little low, 42. I might take the over on that one. 27-17 puts it at 44. I might go over on that one. I wouldn't say this is a lock, that there are any locks, but I don't feel great about it. But 27-17, I think that sounds about right. Some guys coming in late. Welcome in. Philip coming in says, good morning, guys. And Ethan, 2-1, Japan over Germany. That certainly would make that group really interesting. And Germany's still living on their past glory a little bit. This is a team
it is 2-1.
They got knocked out pretty quickly, or didn't even make it recently. So they have not had the success as of late that you might expect of them. Joe Cannon coming in. Benjamin Saint, how do you pronounce his last name?
St. Just.
St. Just. Okay, just like it looks. As a cornerback to watch from Washington, he's very physical and tries to manhandle every receiver he goes up against. Kendall Fuller also got the commies on the board by watching Davis Mills in the backfield on a one-on-one route to the outside and jumping an out route and taking it for a pick six. That's a good, stop and go route. Watch him, little head fake, and then go. Single coverage, give it a shot. Why not? Give it a shot. You got to be able to protect. And the thing is you don't even have to protect that long. 3-step drop, head fake, then throw it up high and long and see who can run underneath it. But yeah, this is a solid team. They're playing really well. They've got some talent. It was one of the more talented teams, Nick, that kind of underachieved, which you feel like that has been Daniel Snyder's MO since he bought the team. They've got a lot of talent, spend a lot of money, and they're dysfunctional. speaking of old nemesis, Ron Rivera is an old nemesis of the Atlanta Falcons. He had a lot of success with the Panthers, and I think he's a hell of a football coach. I really do. I thought what he did was good. We're not talking about him going to the Packers or the Cowboys and being meh. Carolina Panthers, and nobody has succeeded with Washington under Snyder. Nobody. It's one of the things I kind of bristle at when Steve Spurrier was a failure in the NFL. Who succeeded since
Mike Shanahan was okay
at Washington?
Shanahan got him to the playoffs at like 3 seasons out of 5 or something, but had a Robert Griffin forced onto him. But yeah, no, we're not pulling for them. They'll be sold soon. It's going to be the Washington Jeffrey Bezos Amazon Primes pretty soon or something. But
does that end up being a conflict of interest when you've got your broadcast partner doing that, or would he have to give it up?
He already gave up a lot of Amazon. Like, I don't think he's the CEO anymore. He's making money off of it, but I think that the NFL would be very happy to have Jeffrey Bezos and would look the other way.
It's a money. That green, like I said, we can talk about being red and black, but at the end of the day, just about everybody in this business is green. On that note, I think we're going to get out of here. It's Wednesday, so I hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate you being here. Do us a favor and drop a like. And share and tell your friends about us. We will be back on Monday morning to react to the Commanders and the Falcons in Washington. Again, I think the Falcons have raised their own expectations based on their play, and then when they drop, there's some backlash. This team's ahead of schedule, folks. This team's ahead of schedule. I picked this team to go 3-14 at the beginning of the season. They're already 5-6. I think they're going to finish somewhere between 7-9. Wrong math. 7-10 and 8-9, which is where I kind of thought they'd be next year with a playoff shot, looking at 11-6, that type of thing in 2024. They're a year ahead of schedule. And I think that is a good description, a good way that reflects well is what I'm trying to spit out. Reflects well on Terry Fontenot, reflects well on Arthur Smith and these players. So it's a team that's fun to watch, because they're going to battle. They're going to battle for sure. So any last words before we get out of here, Nick?
Will be a fun game. This is a big one. Charlie says I'm a Bronco fan. I have no expectations, but everyone have a great Thanksgiving. A lot to be thankful for. And even though my Germans look like they're going down versus Japan, it is what it is. But we appreciate you guys so much and getting excited. We love the football season, no doubt, but the off season and the team building is where Scott and I think are really, rubbing our hands and excited. So this will be a fun one to follow this season.
Want to say thank you. I'm thankful for Ethan and all the contributions he has made to all of the shows that Nick and I do. You're one of the reasons we're here, plain and simple. So are you. Sometimes you feel like, man, I don't feel like being up for this show. I don't want to do it. And I was like, you know what? If Kevin and Joe and Ethan and Philip and Jason and everybody can be here. Ray Falcon hasn't been here in a while, but here's Terry Oceanboy. If you guys can be here, by God, I'll be here. I will be here. I can do it. So we're here for you. And again, as want to say thank you to Ethan coming in orange with the happy Thanksgiving on the super chat. And one last thing that I forgot, Joe Cannon saying congratulations to Cordero Patterson, player of the week on special teams in the NFC. Sets the record for most kickoff returns for a touchdown in NFL history. And I think I saw the last 3 kickoff returns for a touchdown against the Bears were Cordero Patterson from 3 different teams. And the last
That's crazy because he played years for the Bears too. So like his sample size of his career is smaller.
I know. But then their last 2 kickoffs for touchdowns were also Cordero Patterson. So 5 of his 9 have directly involved the Bears. So congratulations, Cordero Patterson. It didn't take him long to work his way into one of my favorite players to watch play this game. This is not always an easy franchise to play for. You look at Mike Davis last year, how he went from big smiles to a broken man. Cordero Patterson does everything with a huge smile on his face, and I love him for it. So I'm thankful for his attitude and the way he goes out and plays the game. It's one of the reasons I love football. So we love you guys. We will see you on Monday. Nick and I will be off tomorrow on Mile High Huddle on
Broncos for breakfast.
I will be back Thursday night with Zach to talk about some of the games. So Falcons fans, if you want to join us and talk some Thursday football because you're full and you've had enough of your family and you want to come hang out with us, check us out on Mile High Huddle on YouTube. So until then, we will see you Monday, and looking forward to a good game between the Falcons and Commanders. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.